Hello, Ties of Time here. I'm going to be going over my thoughts on the current Naxxramas cards that Blizzard has shown so far. So, Dancing Swords is a mill card, and mill cards aren't particularly strong right now. The reason being is there's simply not enough mill cards to make a deck. What I mean by mill is you're basically giving your opponent a lot of cards into their hand, so they overdraw and they draw through their entire deck very fast, and you win that way. And obviously, since there's not so many cards like this yet, you can't really do that. The current mill cards right now are like Cold Light Oracle, Sap, Vanish, Dancing. It's going to be Dancing Swords as well. Mukla. You know, you each give your opponent cards, and you basically give them too many cards for them to cast. And yeah. So right now I'm going to give the Dancing Swords 3 out of 10. It's probably the weakest card that they've shown so far, but I'm very glad that they are adding in new mill cards. I'm very excited to... I personally love playing mill, so hopefully that they keep adding in mill cards, and eventually there will be a couple of mill decks that are possible. So Undertaker, I'm going to give this card a 5 out of 10. It's basically very weak in any control deck. It can be used in an aggressive deck, though. It's not going to be particularly strong. I mean, you have stuff like Leper Gnome, Nerubian Egg, Loot Hoarder. You don't have very many low death rattle drops. I think, and it's a very like situational card. So like if you draw into it like mid-late game, he's going to be completely useless. He's just going to be 1/2. So right now I don't think he's particularly strong. He has a little bit of potential in a rush deck, but not much at the moment. So 5 out of 10 is my score for him. Nerubian Egg. Obviously this is one of the stronger cards right now. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It does have a downside, and the downside is it's a card that requires other cards. So say you don't have a buff in your hand, this Nerubian Egg is simply going to be a dead card for your next however many turns until you get a buff. So you're going to need something like, Abusive Sergeant, a Savage Roar to suicide the Nerubian Egg, maybe a Rebirth. We'll talk about that later. And yeah, basically you need other cards to activate this card, is the Nerubian Egg's downside at the moment. Shade of Naxxramas. So this is just like one of those fun cards that people will like, get out on turn 3 and then have a 20-turn game, and they'll have like a 22-22 Shade of Naxxramas. I mean, yeah, it's fun, but it's not very practical. It takes too long to set up, and yeah, basically it just takes too long to set up. So I'm going to give this card a 5 out of 10. Baron Rivendare. So what I really like about this card, aside from the ability, is that it has 7 health. So it's going to be pretty hard to remove, unless, maybe Kodos come back because of Baron Rivendare or something. But yeah, it's basically a snowball card, and it's a very strong snowball card, judging by how many death rattles there is going to be in the game. And it's a neutral card, so everyone will be able to play it, no matter what class, which is pretty interesting. I'm going to give this card a total of 8 out of 10. Lots of health. Health is a stronger stat, or the strongest stat between attack and health. And yeah, very, very snowbally. So Poison Seeds. Druids have had trouble with removal for a while. I mean, they have Swipe, which is a very strong nuke, but they don't have anything like Shield Slam, Execute, Equality, stuff like that. They've had trouble with hard removal. And Poison Seeds can do just that. They can get rid of giants and, stealth creatures like the Stealth Auctioneers that we so hate right now. It basically has potential for a lot of different combos. I mean, you could do Poison Seed Starfall for total board clear, obviously. And druids with a lot of units on their board are very scary. So say the druids death rattle their own units to 2/2 treants and then clear your board. You're gonna want to have a response immediately. It's certainly an interesting card that I personally am looking forward to playing. So an 8 out of 10, mainly because it gives druids a function that they did not have previously. Webspinner. This is, in my opinion, one of the 2 strongest cards in this set that have been shown so far. The reason being is it's the strongest draw card in the game at the moment. 1 mana for draw. The only other cards that do that are Flare and Tracking, I believe, which are not units, much less they aren't beasts, although they do have their unique uses. Basically, as more cards are released, as more beasts are released, this card can only get stronger. And yeah, draw is probably my favorite function. And yeah, strongest draw card in the game, and 1/1 beast for 1 mana. Basically 9 out of 10. Not much to say other than that. Duplicate. It's kind of a fun card. The most potential I can think of off the top of my head was Leper Gnome and like maybe Molten Giant decks, stuff that is very cheap to cast and has a lot of potential. So you say you duplicate Leper Gnome, you get 2 more Leper Gnomes out. That's basically turning duplicate into a 4 damage nuke at worst, with adding 2 Leper Gnomes into your hand. And of course with Molten Giants, if you suicide a Molten Giant and you're at 10 HP or whatever, oh man, you're gonna be going ham on the Molten Giants. It certainly has potential for lots of interesting / fun games, but it does require a setup and quite a bit of mana, so I only gave this card a 5 out of 10. Alright, Avenge. The biggest downside to this card is secrets can't be activated on your turn. So your opponent basically chooses when Avenge will be procced, meaning that they could do something like kill your 1/1 recruit, and then your Avenge procs, and they can silence on the same turn. However, Avenge being a 3/2 for 1 is quite strong. It's just really weak to silence, which there's probably going to be a lot of in this upcoming patch, judging by all the death rattles. So I'm only going to give this a 6 out of 10. It has a lot of potential for snowballing games, but it's really not that strong on its own, and it doesn't really completely win you the game. And when I said one of the 2 strongest cards, Webspinner, in the current cards released, I'd say Dark Cultist is the other one. So why is Dark Cultist a 9 out of 10 as well as Webspinner? Because it is now the strongest 3-drop in the game, I believe. It's essentially a 3/7 for 3 mana. The only downside to this card right now is it needs other units on the board. So you have to have kind of a semi-fast beatdown deck, right? But yeah, I believe this is the first 3/4 in the game as well. So yeah, which is quite significant. I mean, it can one-shot Harvest Golems, and it can kill stuff like Korkron Elite, and yeah, it's just a really strong card that will probably bring Priest back into the metagame. We'll see. Alright, so Anubar Ambusher, 5/5 for 4 mana. Its death rattle looks like a downside, but you can make a deck to really synergize with this death rattle and turn his death rattle into actually a really big upside. For one, there's no 5/5s or 4. The only one close to that is Yeti, which is a 4/5/4/4, but he has no death rattle. And obviously this beats out Yeti. Even if just by a bit, that is quite significant. And say you have, you know, a novice engineer on your board. If you bring that back in your hand, well, you are certainly profiting from that. That's just a small example. But yeah, as long as you build a deck to complement the Anubar Ambusher, your deck is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10, simply because, mostly because he is the strongest 4-drop at the moment. Rebirth, I'm only going to give this card a 6 out of 10 because it's a synergy card. So if you compare it to like something like Soul Priest and Circle of Healing, that's like a 4 mana Flame Strike, right? But they, you know, it requires 2 cards. That's why a synergy card's can be really strong. Right now, I only see this really being strong with something like Nerubian Egg, and I mean, yeah, at times it can be strong with like Sylvanas and Cairn. That requires a very big setup. One interesting thing to note with Rebirth, though, is that it also synergizes with charge creatures, so you can get 2 charges off in one turn. So you can turn Rebirth into, you know, a 6 damage nuke, a 4 damage nuke, a 3 damage nuke, depending on how strong your charge creature is. So it is very versatile, but it is a synergy card. I'm only going to give it a 6 out of 10. I might be wrong, though. It might be a bit stronger than 6 out of 10. We will see. So Voidcaller, Death Rattle. Put a demon from your hand into the battlefield. This means that it can summon stuff like Jiraxxus, Pit Lord, Doomguard. It can bring in quite a bit of creatures for free, might I add. This card I'm kind of conflicted on what to rate. I'd really have to experiment with it personally before I'd be confident in my rating. For now, I'm leaving it at a 7 out of 10. I'm skeptical that this card will really be as strong as it looks. The reason being is you need to have the cards in your hand for one, and if you compare it to something like a Twilight Drake and Handlock, it's really not that strong. But it has a lot of potential to be extremely strong in something like a mid-range zoo deck. So if you put in like Dread Infernos, Jiraxxus, Pit Lords, Doom Guards, all that stuff, this has a lot of potential with decks like that, in my opinion. And Death's Bite. I would probably rate this at an 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 if it didn't interfere with Fire War Axe. The reason why Death's Bite interfering with Fire War Axe is such a big deal is because Fire War Axe is probably one of the strongest cards in the game at the moment. And weapons overlapping with each other make them inherently weaker in your deck because you potentially have one dead card for X amount of turns. But yeah, it is certainly a strong card. It's the true silver of Warriors now, and there's not much else to say about it. So I hope this will be helpful to you when Naxxramas is released and helps get your mind thinking about things and whatnot. See you guys next time. Have a good day.